Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I wanted to share some heart-centered or heart-opening conversation topics with all of you. These conversation topics could be really good for people who are speaking to their twin flame, my twin flame viewers, or on dates. Let's say that you have a tenuous family situation or some tension. You can definitely use these heart-centered conversation topics. If a conversation is taking you down a route that feels low vibe, then you can just use these to raise the vibes. Just try before you judge. Ask a person to tell you about their happiest moment as a child. Now, if you need to transition this, you could say something like, you know, this might sound silly, but I've just been thinking a lot about my childhood. And then you could say like, oh, do you think you had a good childhood? And then they'll just say like yes or no or whatever. And then you can be like, oh, really? Regardless of even if they say no, it doesn't really matter, yes or no. Then you can say, oh, really? Can you tell me about your happiest moment as a child? Now, usually people will think for a little while. Some people know right away, like, oh yeah, it's that time I went with my grandpa to the circus or whatever. And then just ask follow-up questions like, oh, why was that your happiest moment? What was the best part of that day? Like stuff like that. You could just ask anything related to what they share with you. Sometimes if you get lucky, people will have a lot of happy moments and they'll say, well, I don't know what my happiest moment was. I have so many. And then they'll just tell you like so many wonderful stories from their childhood. So that's a high vibe conversation starter right there. I love this one. I use these all the time. You can ask a person, have you ever experienced a miracle or have you ever experienced divine intervention? And then ask them like, what happened? Almost everybody has experienced a miracle if they think about it. Be prepared for the person to think for a little while. They might be like, not sure, but then after a while they'll be like, oh yeah, my life was saved, at one time or something like that. Now, if somebody says they have never experienced a miracle or they've never experienced divine intervention, you can ask them, do you know anybody else who's ever experienced a miracle or something like that? Now, if they say no to both of those things, well, they might definitely not be somebody that you want to have in your life, or maybe they're just having a really bad day. If they're struggling, you could say even a small miracle. Did you ever feel like there was a time where some sort of divine force or your guardian angel or something like that like intervened to protect you? Yes. Have you ever experienced a miracle? Have you? I have. I have. Oh my gosh, have I ever? Can you describe to me your perfect day? Can you describe to me your perfect day? Like if you were gonna have the perfect day, what would it include? My husband and I, we talk about this all the time because it updates over time. Like we'll be like, oh, what's your perfect like summer day or what's your perfect autumn day? And then just ask them to describe as much detail as possible or ask a lot of follow-up questions. Sometimes people might try to answer in a basic way, but don't allow that, okay? Be like, okay, yeah, like what time are you waking up in the morning? How much sleep did you get the night before? What do you eat for breakfast? What are you gonna wear on your perfect day? Ask a lot of questions and, just imagine right along with them. This will raise the vibes because the person will then be imagining like their total perfect day. You can ask like, are you alone? Who's there with you? Why? Like, why is that person a part of your perfect day? Where are you? Try to get them to expand. They don't necessarily have to be at home or in a place that they normally live. They could be anywhere in the world or even anywhere in the universe. Okay, so yes. I love asking this one to elderly people. So you can ask somebody, will you tell me about the first time that you fell in love? Like, can you tell me about the first time that you fell in love? Some people are gonna tell you, oh my gosh, yes, like it was on the playground and I was in preschool and it was such and such and this is why I love them. Some people are going to tell you, the first time I ever fell in love was with my present spouse or my first husband or second husband, and they're going to tell you like really profound sort of, you know, things about love. Regardless of how they define love, this is going to be a very interesting and very heart-opening experience for both of you. This one's for more so people who are a little bit more, like, people who are at least somewhat spiritually awake. If you could design your perfect incarnation, what would it include? Okay, so this is for people that definitely believe in past lives, okay, and believe in reincarnation. If you could design your perfect incarnation, you know, what would it include? You could talk about this one probably for a whole entire day. Then ask them, like, who would your parents be? What would their jobs be? Where would you be born? What would your house be like? What would your neighborhood be like? Would you have any pets? What would your physical body be like? Like, what would you look like? What would your gender be? Just ask everything. Where would you go to school? What would your career be later on? How many times would you fall in love? Who would be there with you? Yes, just ask everything. Just literally ask everything. That's so fun to think about. That's like when I'm bored, I just always think, oh, like, what would my perfect incarnation be? I have so many things that I want to experience that I'm afraid I'm going to be incarnating forever. Maybe, let's say somebody's telling you about a person that they don't like, because a lot of times people will do this and they'll complain. You could be like, yes, but who is the most favorite person that you've ever known in your life? People might look at you a little bit weird if you do that sort of transition, but they'll still answer your question. It'll be interesting. It'll be so interesting. Sometimes for people, it's going to be like a teacher that they had when they were a little kid. Some people, it'll be someone that they just met. What was that person like? How did they speak to you? What was their style like? How often did you see each other? Like, how did they influence your life? Just ask a lot of questions. How did your parents fall in love? If you have a feeling that that person's parents were never in love, that would be unusual, but sometimes is the case. You could ask, do you know how your grandparents fell in love? Or if they have like a sibling or something like that who's in a loving relationship, like how did your sister or brother and their spouse fall in love? Just ask questions about how people fell in love. How did you fall in love? My parents met on a blind date. They actually really met on a blind date. Their two best friends set them up with each other and they went out to a movie and that's how they fell in love. Oh yes. Looking back on your life so far, what would you say is the happiest moment that you have ever experienced? What did that feel like? And who was there? And just ask them as much as you can. Oh, do you remember anything else? Like, what were you wearing? What was the weather like? Like, how did you feel right before this moment took place? How did you feel after? Why do you think you still remember this happiest moment of your life? The first variation is, what is the nicest thing that anybody has ever done for you? And then that's pretty heart-opening. But I think even a more heart-opening question is, what do you think is the nicest thing that you have ever done for anyone? And you could definitely ask this to people who are not that nice, and they might not have a very good answer, but then later on they'll be nicer as a result of you asking the question. So it's kind of an active service. If you ask somebody this question, what is the nicest thing that you have ever done for someone? I hope that you guys have the best conversations ever. I hope that you will try out some of these heart-opening conversation topics. Just hope that you just feel so good. And whoever you're talking with, I hope that they all feel really, really good too. Warning, if you use these heart-opening conversation topics on a date, the person may fall in love with you. Okay, you have been warned. All right, okay, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please come back any Tuesday or Friday for a brand new video. Thank you, and namaste.